Ben, congratulations. 1 year, right? 1 year. That's good, man.
Thank you,
You have
guys.
been,
Appreciate it.
yeah, you've been doing awesome, man. Your consistency. I mean, I don't know what you're doing when you're working with clients, but I assume you're closing some deals. You have your 10x hat on, so I assume you're closing some deals. And and I see you posting your videos consistently. That's a chore on its own. So if you're doing that, man, I know you're doing
Yeah,
other stuff. That's good.
I appreciate it. Yeah, just closed one deal this month, so far so good.
If I remember right, I don't know if that might have been the one you posted on Facebook, but I mean, it was a nice property too, maybe a little above average price value.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm just grateful it finally closed. The buyer and seller were quite tough to get to the finish line. I had one of those buyers sellers where like they're just trying to get them all the documents in order, and it was taking a while, but it finished through. Yeah, thanks.
Nice. Well, again, man, good job, and happy to see you here, everybody. Michael Foster, man, Alan, got a ton of people on today.
What's up, Jeff?
What's up? We'll get some good news, man. Share some stuff at the end. I'm going to cheat though, and I'm going to share something real quickly now that I thought was super interesting. In talking to Andy Weintraub, who's out in like Cherry Hill, New Jersey, yesterday, and we were on the phone talking about his calling efforts. He's got a routine that we're striving to follow on a daily basis, calling for sale by owners as little as they are. It's a key point, right? Because everybody right now is, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Everybody says that. Really not any, and they're selling on their own and all these things. And I think in some places it's maybe been some turnaround just based on data that I've seen, where it's rebalancing. But either way, he's supposed to be calling these expireds and for sale by owners and doing other stuff. Instead, what he probably finds himself doing most of the time is like, trying to sort through his friends on Facebook and figure out where there's maybe an opportunity there, or let me, have my administrative assistant do anything other than like, let me focus on what I should tell my administrative assistant to do instead of focus that time on calls right now or whatever. So that's one thing, it's just easy to avoid those calls. But anyhow, so he's like, man, I got to get back at it. So he called Mojo, whose dialer is with, and he said, how come I only have, a certain amount of FSBOs in my account? I've been signed up since like May and everything. And the lady was, of course, low inventory, all these things, just hasn't been as many traditionally and everything. But she said, after they tallied it all up, he had about 160 for sale by owners that had come into his Mojo since May. She looked for him. It's nice to know that they could just tell him that on a phone call. She looked and told him how many had actually listed with an agent. So she was on the phone with him and was able to tell him that without him having to go through and cross-reference or do anything. 70 out of the 160 had ended up listing with an agent since May based on what she told him. So, I mean, just think about that. Like everybody who says, man, there's no opportunity to capture those, they can sell it on their own or they're going to sell too quickly. I mean, 70 out of those 160. So what we did is we turned that around into not only good for him to know, but we turned it around into something that he can use when he's talking to other for sale by owners. Like, hey, I understand that you just put the sign in the yard and I hope you have some success on your own. But, just keep in mind, I wasn't aware of this. You probably weren't either. But half of the people in the last 6 months that attempted to sell their home on their own ended up at the end of the day working with an agent. Right, that's what that data tells me is that if 70 out of the 160 that came through his Mojo ended up listing, that's half roughly of the people that tried to sell it on their own, even in a market where supposedly all I could do is put the sign out there and, wait. So I just wanted to share that because there's not a lot. 6 months, you do the math, that's what, I mean, it's still a good amount every month. There's not a lot, but there's still opportunity there. So anyhow, besides that, and I guess kind of aligned with that is when you're talking to these people, we've got to have something that creates a predictable outcome if we're going to meet with them face to face. So we're going to talk quickly today about the number one tool that we used in the brokerage that Mike and Jay had, and they used it long before I was ever part of the NAEA family. But it's something called the Seller's Counseling Interview, and it's what we use to qualify every single in-person appointment. And when we started doing that and made it a must, then the closing ratio for those people that were meeting in person went up 75%, and in some cases more. You know, on the other side, keep in mind, it meant that they were meeting with less people. They were meeting with less people, but the people that they were meeting with were in the decision stage, right, of that sales cycle, and they were in a very likely position to say yes to the offer, right? Their pain level was at a certain point, their motivation level was at a certain point, their desire for, you know, change was at a certain point or something, versus that person who's in the awareness stage. I just now kind of thought about, man, it'd be nice to move out to Colorado someday. Like, you know, if you're trying to close me like I'm somebody who already has the job in Colorado the same way, you know, there's a difference. If you meet with me when I said I think I'm going to move to Colorado one day, you know, and if your time's worth $500 an hour, you know, I don't know that that was the best meeting. You could have asked some questions to figure out that I'm probably a little bit farther out, and it may not warrant your $500 an hour time right now, if you look at it that way. So we're going to talk about what that is. We're not going to get in. We're not going to get into any slides or anything today. We're just going to go through it and then open it up to some questions. And Miranda, I don't know if you're still on and you can hear me. I know you're probably in transit from one place to another right now, but are you still on?
It looked like she.
I'm on here though, Jeff, too. So
okay, Sierra, cool. So let me show you guys, and I was gonna have Miranda share it with y'all. Sierra, I don't know if you can find a copy of the Seller's Counseling Interview, but that's something that we would share with everybody. If you don't have it, guys, it's in like the NAEA Academy, or you can just send us a message. And
I'll go ahead and get that, and I can maybe put the link in the comments.
Great, yeah, just drop it in the chat. And so let me walk you guys through the context. So if we were on the phone with, and I made many of these phone calls and filled out tons of these things, right? I mean, this is original right here. This is Crystal. Crystal was a beast. This person says, Matt, follow up with 6 months to a year out. So I bet you the agent who went on that was like, what the hell? Why did you send me out there? There's 6 months to a year out, right? We don't want to be in that position. Don't send me out there if it's 6 months to a year out. I didn't know they were 6 months to a year out. Ah, you didn't know? That's because you didn't go here. You didn't know they were 6 months out? That's because as soon as they gave you any inclination they were willing to meet with you, everything else went to the wayside, right? And you were just ready to go out. So the Seller's Counseling Interview, the way we would use it is typically in conversation. If we got to the point where I said something like, you know, Mike, why don't we do this? I can come out and meet with you and one of three things will happen, right? We can discuss what we could do to get your home sold for the most amount of money. And if that makes sense to you, we can spend as much time as it takes to talk about what that looks like. Or you may not agree with the strategy that I discussed with you. And if that's the case, that's fine. Let me know. I'll leave. You know, or we may not be able to help you. I may not be able to get the price that you want, the home sold as quickly as you might want to. And I want to be upfront and honest with you. So if that's the case, I'll let you know and we can part ways as friends. But either way, at least you know what your options are. Fair enough? He might say, yeah, okay. And I would say, what about tomorrow, or would Friday work better for you? Whatever, we'd settle on the time. Once we got to Great Friday at 3:00 p.m., awesome. Now, if you don't mind, let me ask you, and I wouldn't even say if you don't mind. I would say, Mike, what I'd like to do is ask you a few questions so I can better prepare for when I meet with you. That's the transition. Anytime we get a green light on Thursday at 3:00, awesome. Now, let me ask you a few questions so I can better prepare for when I meet with you. Ideally, you'd love to have somebody do this for you to keep you in a position of power, right? What I would love to do is if I talked to Mike and I got to that point, I might say that, Mike, Miranda is going to give you a call back. If you don't mind, she's going to ask a few questions just to help us better prepare for the appointment, right? So that you have somebody else doing it. And the other thing is that there's some sales resistance that's developed between me and Mike. Like Mike's on guard, like he doesn't want to get sold by me, closed, influenced, do anything he doesn't want to do, rushed or anything like that by me. But Miranda, he doesn't associate that with. Miranda's not the one who introduced them on that call, who made that cold call, if we want to call it, or whatever the case is, right? So when we say that Miranda's going to follow up, confirm with you on our time and ask a few questions so I can better prepare for the appointment. If you have the opportunity to do that, that's a great way to do it. In our cases, we had ISAs a lot of the time that were calling on behalf of the agent. So the ISA just did it from start to finish. The ISA was the one saying, hey, Mike, I noticed that your home came off the market, blah, blah, blah. They were doing the whole call. You know, so figure out a way that works. The key is you want to keep yourself in a position of authority, right? I don't expect when I call, you know, when I call this is a stupid example, but when I call, what is it, St. Jude Children's Hospital, I don't expect St. Jude to answer the phone. You know what I mean? If that's the case, then they're not doing what they should be doing. So we would transition to that. The first section on the seller's counseling interview is like name, mailing address, best time to contact, all that stuff. You should have all that. It's already in your lead profile. Typically, if you're working in Mojo or you've got 2 screens up and you've got multiple tabs, you know, you can fill this out as you're talking. And that's usually what we would do. It would become our scratch sheet and we capture a lot of stuff through the natural course of the conversation that would actually end up needing to be on here anyhow. So this became the catch-all. Once we got past that basic contact information, it would sound something like, Mike, why don't you tell me a little bit about the home? Like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, you know, about what's the approximate square footage? Is it 1 story, 2 story? You know, garages, 2 car, 3 car, what's the garage situation? How many living rooms, how many dining rooms? What about fireplaces? Any fireplaces? Awesome. And is there anything unusual about the lot? Could you just describe the oversized lot, corner lot, anything like that? Awesome. And what about any outbuildings, sheds, anything like that? No, decks, patios, what's the backyard look like? I assume probably a sprinkler system. Is there a storm cellar? Some of this stuff you leave out if it's just not relevant in your market. How about a pool? Any pools? So we get a really clear picture of the home. It's not unusual that they might say, hey, it's all right there on the description, dude, right? It's an expired listing. It's all right there on the Zillow or wherever. And so what we would usually say is, I understand, but you'd be amazed at some of the things that we've seen that weren't correct. We always like to confirm everything with the owner. And as long as you say that with confidence, they won't bat an eye. But it's also a red flag that if somebody's, you know, if somebody's saying that, I might not be dealing with the right person either, right? If they're not willing to have this discussion. But you can see we're even asking them those questions. How many bedrooms, how many baths, and so on. If they're not interested in selling the home, they're probably not interested in having that conversation. And you're going to start to feel maybe some resistance. And if that's the case, you might want to question why are you setting the appointment in the first place? Right? So this seller's counseling interview not only will set you up to close more in person, but it also disqualifies people. You get to this process and they go, man, I don't want to answer all these questions. I got to go. Thank you for letting me know before I wasted the time to prepare, right, and go out. You know, I likely wasn't going to be in a good opportunity. So once we get through all the details of the home, the next thing would be, are there any covenants, HOAs, anything like that associated with it? You know, awesome. I mean, you can tell this is serious. Nobody else has spent the time to go through this with them. And then what would you say are some of your favorite features of the home, right? For instance, what were some of the things that you loved when you first purchased the home? And so you get them to stop and think for a second. This isn't 2, 3, right? This isn't a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom type of simple answer. So you give them a chance to embellish a little bit, and you never know what might come out when you give people the opportunity to say whatever they want. So what would you say some of the features are of the home that you like best? You usually get, 3 of those at least. We write them down, like right here, it says outside kitchen, loves interior, Irving, which is a town here in Texas, elevation of lots, right? Like elevation of lots. That's a good one. And that's a good answer. That tells me, that just leads me to believe that this person matches more up with somebody who's actually in that decision stage, right? When you're able to describe the details within the context of me coming over to talk to you about putting the home on the market. If you're going into that kind of detail within that context, I think that we're all on the same page here. When would you like for this move to happen? If we're not on the same page, we ought to be getting on the same page right here. So when would you like for this move to happen? On this one, it says stain. So I don't know what that one meant, but you know what I mean? That's where we say, I'm not quite clear on what you mean by that. Help me understand. Right? We don't take any vague answers. When would you like for this move to happen? I don't know. Well, if you had to guess, right? When would you say? If you could wave a magic wand, when would you say? When's the earliest that you would be able to move? Let's say that somebody introduced an offer that you were willing to accept in the next 30 days. Would that be too soon? Whatever you have to do to not let them beat around the bush and still not break rapport. The next one is, will you be staying in the area or moving away? Right? Will you be staying in the area or moving away? There could be an opportunity for us to help them in their future home, refer them to somebody. There's something that we need to know. If they say, I don't know, I haven't thought about it, what does that tell you? Right? What does that tell you? If they say, I don't know, I haven't thought about it, again, I'm trying to put myself in a position with somebody where I can have a one-call close. This isn't a one-call close, a one-call meeting, right? A one meeting close. So if somebody hasn't even thought about where they're going to go, I don't know if they're in a position to sign paperwork with me, maybe. It's going to cause me to ask more questions. This is why we go through this. And then, why have you decided to move there? So this person said it was a central location. They're staying in Irving because it's a central location. Awesome. Are you working with anybody currently to find your home? You know, your next home in Irving? You could. I wouldn't do that. I'd stay on track here. The goal being to just qualify this point. They're buying, it says. So it says, why have you decided to move there? And then if you're staying here, are they buying? Have they already bought? Are they renting a place? If they're buying somewhere else, then you can set them up with somebody you might know, right? In that market, you could offer relocation assistance if they're relocating, and you have a resource to help with that. So that's why it's good to know where they're going. And then this person put down target date of 90 days. So, you know, the conversation obviously came up as far as when would you like to see this move happen ideally? They answered target date 90 days. That's great, right? That's in the window. We would usually use 90 days as the rule of whether or not we would send an agent or go out and meet somebody. If they said anything more than 90 days, then we would choose probably to nurture it a little bit more. I'm saying then because, you know, now you probably want to go out, you know, and meet with them. So, you know, you can make your own determination on that. But again, you want to put yourself in the best position to be able to convert the time into an actual signed listing agreement, not my time today and then another time 3 days from now and another time, right, a week from now, if at all possible. And then next question, is this your personal home? Is it a rental? Is it occupied or vacant? You know, I found, like in my conversations, that one, if you overlook it, you get, you know, bit in the butt by that. And you can easily forget to ask and just assume that people always live and they're always selling their primary residence, right? You just kind of make that assumption, and they're not often. So make sure you ask, is this your personal home? Is it a rental, anything like that? Nope, personal home, great. When would be a good time for us to come out? Wow, that's on here. The way that we positioned it, we'd already determined when the time would come out. So I wouldn't even ask that question about when a good time to come out would be. We've already done that. Next question, is there anyone else involved in the sale of the home? Right, that's a must ask question. We want all decision makers, if possible, to be there. So is there anyone else involved in the decision to sell the home? And if so, do they feel the same way? Do they feel the same way? And would they be available when we come out and meet with you? Right, so are they going to be able to be there as well? Do they feel the same way? And would they be able to be there when we meet? Right, so that's a really important one. You know, do they feel the same way as you do about selling the home? Have you done any upgrades since you purchased the home? So tell me a little, you know, I know you mentioned, you told me a little bit about the home as far as, you know, it being 3-bedroom, 3,500 square feet, et cetera. Have you done any upgrades or anything like that since you purchased the home, right? And so we get some information there. This person said kitchen, elevation of lawn, fence, gates. And the next question is, are you aware of any repairs that might need to be done to the home? Again, remember, if you're barking up the wrong tree, they're going to let you know at this point, right? Typically, they're going to let you know at this point that they're not really motivated or not in a position yet where, maybe you should be meeting with them. So are you aware of any repairs that need to be done for the home? This person just said cosmetic stuff. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your home? A scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your home? Most people say 10, but this person said 8 or 9. And then they said, probably because we let them expand, we let them talk, they said they'd like it to be bigger. I like that. All right. So that goes probably back to the motivation of why they're looking to sell. Yeah, it's a great home. I give it an 8 to a 9. Just wish it was a little bigger. Okay, it makes sense. How long have you owned the home? Bought it in 2009. Do you remember what you gave? $468,000. Have you had any recent appraisal or market analysis done recently? No. If they said yes, the next question would be why. Like this person said no, they hadn't done anything recently, but they did 2 years ago in regards to refinance. This person was on the phone. This person was all on the phone going back to either the agent may have initiated a call, got to the point where there was a set time to meet, and then said, Ben, my assistant's going to give you a call back just to confirm, and they'll ask a few questions to better prepare me for the appointment. So it would have went that way. Or it could have been the ISA who might have called, and I'm going to be setting in the time with you to meet with Ben. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a few questions so that Ben can be better prepared for when he meets with you, right? So ideally in one of those two situations. So have you had any market analysis done for refinancing purposes about 2 years ago? Do you have any idea on what you think the home would sell for? Do you have any idea on what you think the home would sell for? This person said, not sure. I'm one of those that I try to get specific answers. So I would, if I was conscious enough to do so, not let them get away with that, right? I'm not perfect just like anybody else. So there's plenty of times when you look back and go, man, I let them get off the hook with that one. But, right now, as I'm talking to you guys, if I saw not sure, I'd be like, well, if you had to guess, right? If you had to guess, that's always the best way to get people to expand a little bit. If you did know, right? If you had to guess. And then how did you arrive at that number? So, imagine they said 600,000 is what I think it's worth. Okay, and just curiosity, how did you arrive? Just out of curiosity, how did you arrive at that number? And it's not meant to deal with that, right? We're not telling them 600,000. Oh, you're crazy. That's out of market range or what. It's not about that. Just trying to see if they've come up with the number in their mind and how they came up with it. That's it, and move on. Do you know what your approximate mortgage balance is? Right. So again, now if we're barking up the wrong tree, people aren't usually going to want to start sharing that information. They know that we're serious, that we're about business at this point. We're not that other person who just said, when are you ready to work with the agent to get the home sold? I can be out there. I've sold 5,000 homes. I'll be out there tomorrow. I can be out there right now. I got nothing going on. Right. So they immediately know that you're different by going through this process. And so they respect then your time by you get to this point. And if they're not willing to, to go along with you, they want to save themselves the time and they want to respect you because look at the process that you're going through with them. They tend to respect. So do you know what the approximate mortgage balance is? This person said 350 to 380,000. In the times when there might have been a second mortgage, that was a question that was on here, probably not much anymore. And then if necessary, are you prepared to bring money to closing? That again is, we didn't always ask that. Tag as a short sale if possible is on here. So if you were in a position where you were in a market dealing with a lot of short sales, you'd want to know that. So we would tag that there. Those are things that we rarely ask just based on the market conditions at the time. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell the home? Right. So at this point, you've built massive rapport. Even if I'm not Ben who initiated the call and I'm Ben's assistant, and Ben built all the rapport on the front end and I call with 0, by going through this at this point, either way, I've built massive rapport, and collectively we've built rapport. And so when we get to this point about how motivated are you to sell the home, we're hoping to get an authentic answer and some of the guard is down. If we get anything less than a 7, we probably ought to question, whether or not we should be meeting, or we might just need to question motivation again, some of those things. So I believe our rule was anything that was if it was a 7, if it wasn't a 10, right? Let's say it was a 7, 8 or 9 or something, we would say like, what would it take to be a 10? What would it take to get it to a 10? If it was anything below a 7, we would say, why so low? Right? So if it was like above, let's just say if it's above a 6, what would it take to get to a 10? If it's below a 7, why so low? Right? And then zip it and let them answer for themselves. So what would it take to get to a 10? This person said a 6, by the way. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell your home? They put a 6. What would it take to get you to a 10? Money would motivate. Money would motivate them in a new home, right? So it sounds like maybe they'd have to sell the current home in order to purchase the new home, and then they still have to find the new home and so on, which makes sense why this post-it note said meet and follow up with 6 months to a year out. I don't know what happened. I'll tell you at the end, actually. I think I see some notes. All right, and then the last thing. So now we have checked the motivation level again, what it would take for them to get to a 10. And then the last things here are really tightening it up. So you'd mentioned that you hadn't had any market analysis or anything done recently. Would you just promise me that you'll do me a favor? If you happen to speak or meet with anybody in between you and I meeting, that you won't make any decisions until we've had a chance to talk. Fair enough? Right? So you're asking for that commitment. We're going to be putting a lot of time and effort into getting ready for our appointment. So please do me a favor. Don't list your home with anyone until you've heard what we have to offer that no one else can. Is that okay? Right? And if you follow the scripting, you've been talking about a proven repeatable system backed by market research to get you up to 18% more money and so on. So that's why that goes back to don't list your home with anyone until you've heard the offer that we have and offer that's talking about the system. All right, and so most of the time they say yes too, right? Most of the time they say yes. I said that, hundreds, if not thousands of times. Do us a favor. We're going to be putting a lot of time into preparing for the appointment. So promise me that you won't make any decisions to list your home with anybody until we've had a chance to meet. Okay, all right, fair enough. And then the last question would be, Mike, one last question. If everything sounds good, price is acceptable, everything that we talked about sounds good to you, would you be open to putting your home on the market with us when we meet with you on Friday at 2 p.m.? And it's rarely do you get a yes. Let me just say that. Rarely do you get absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Right. That would be a red flag to me. That would be a red flag. What you get most of the time is like, well, we'll have to see. Possibly. Let's just see what happens on Friday. That's like a real, my ears perk up. I'm like, man, that's real right there. Oh, absolutely not. Oh, no, I'm going to have to talk to my grandfather. He was in real estate for 30 years and knows everybody in town or whatever. All kinds of stuff could come up. So that's why you ask that question. You think you're getting off scot-free when you don't ask it because you have something to lose. If I ask that question, everything's going to fall apart. It's already, you don't have anything in the first place. And what's going to fall apart is your schedule that day, going out to meet somebody that you shouldn't be meeting with. And what's going to fall apart is everything else as you're preparing for this deal, right up until he calls you 30 minutes before and cancels on you, right? Everything is going to fall apart that happens in between there if you don't ask that question. And most people feel uncomfortable about asking that question, which is completely understandable. So that's why I point out it's so important to ask it, because people are inclined initially to try to get past it and think that because we had this conversation, because they told me some of this stuff and everything, of course they're willing to list their home with me, like they would tell you, like it's their obligation to let you know that they might not, right? I mean, you have to ask them. So I mean, every single appointment would have one of these. That's why this is just one binder. I don't know why I still keep them, but this is just one binder that's full of old ones. And if you walked up and said, bam, I just set an appointment with so-and-so, I would say, where's the seller's counseling interview? If you didn't have one, then you're going back and you're calling them back right now. And you're going to say, hey, I'm sorry, there were a few things that I forgot to ask. Can you answer a few questions for me so I can better prepare? You're either going to do it then, or if you forgot, if you only got half of the information, if he said, oh, I got another call coming in, I got to go. If you could not complete it, then you would call back and complete it before the appointment. And one of the easiest ways would just be when you're confirming. You're going to call and confirm at least 24 hours before the appointment anyhow, if you're doing a good job as far as that goes. So on that call, whoever's making that confirmation call can finish getting whatever information they didn't get here, or they can initiate it saying, Ben will be out there tomorrow. I just wanted to confirm and ask a few questions so I can better prepare him. So either way, even if you don't happen to get it on that first call, there's still plenty of time before the face-to-face appointment to get it and to know, have a high confidence level. I mean, when you walk in, when this is all filled out and everything, and somebody handed you this and they didn't skip any corners, your confidence level is up here walking in, which changes the whole thing from the get-go. This person said, appointment went well, the notes, I guess, after, appointment went well, but wife is emotionally attached. Wife is emotionally attached to the home, I guess. Going back to the question of, do they feel the same way? This person said, is there anyone else involved in the sale of the home? Yes, wife. Do they feel the same way? He said, yes, go figure. And then met 6 months to a year out, and I don't know what happened with it. So every person that sets an appointment, including yourself, should have one of these. And if you measure it, your appointment close rate will go up. You might say, I'm going to hold off on meeting with some people and just nurture them a little bit more. You don't just throw them away. You nurture them. They get even more attention than the person who wants to meet you right now would get. And keep in mind that really, for me, there's never one thing that would really rule somebody out, or one red flag that might rule somebody out. Typically, there's the whole profile. And so if something sounded a little off and I look at everything else and there's a few other things that are off, if it walks like a duck and squawks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? Now, if there's just one thing and everything else lines up pretty well, you make your decision. So just because it's not a black and white world, but usually, if I already was worried that this didn't really sound like it was great, then I hit a couple road bumps going through the seller's counseling interview. And then at the end, he kind of gives me a smart ass answer about if they're going to list the home or not. Now I got a bunch of things that are adding up. And so in that case, I might, if he just gave me the smug answer at the end, I might have not decided not to meet with him. So I would just take everything into account when doing that. So that's it. And anybody who needs that, I think Sierra shared it with you. We printed them out and had stacks sitting in front of us if we were making calls. We tried not to fill it out digitally. We did it on pen and paper. What's up, man?
I tried to click the link, but it says temporary error. So I don't know why.
Yeah, I had to open up in a new tab and I was able to pull it up, but I put in the chat, anybody who wasn't able to download it, I can personally send them an email with that.
Oh, I'll put my email here. And Jeff, do we have one for whenever we talk to buyer leads too?
Yeah, we have a buyer interview questionnaire that's the same thing. And so we'll share that with you, and we'll go over that here in the future week too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is great stuff. This is really good.
I mean, everybody who's used this one thing alone. I mean, to me, in the investment business, we had the same thing. It was called a PR sheet. It was called a PR sheet, and they'd fill it out, and I'd go turn it in to my compliance officer, and she would make sure that we weren't getting in trouble with the SEC, and somebody would approve a prospectus to get sent to that investor. That PR sheet was just like this, almost looked the same, except the questions were different, but it served the same purpose. It protected our ass from sending, investment material to somebody who wasn't qualified. And it saved us at $45 a book and all kinds of other expenses. It saved us from just paper in the street. If you ever seen Boiler Room, and he talks about, if you ever send me another piece of wood like that, why don't you go chop down some trees? You're sending me so much damn wood. Wood is just writing up paper. I talked to Ben. He's great. Here, Jeff, call him. He had a 1-second call with Ben. He didn't have nothing. That's a bunch of wood. So we don't want to have our ISAs or anybody on our team sending us a bunch of wood. You're burning my leads. You're burning expireds, right? Just to fill out a piece of paper and make yourself feel good. I don't care if you get one appointment a week. If that appointment meets and has a good conversation with me, and even if I don't close it, I don't care. Just get me in the door. Let's have a good conversation, and I know that the odds will take care of it, right? But I'd rather have that one appointment a week that's solid, even if it doesn't close, than 5 that are all shitty, to cancel. I can never predict really if I got something or not. If you start going through the seller's counseling interview, whoever's going on those appointments will have some certainty in knowing, man, I got a solid opportunity today to win. You know what I mean? And that's what we want. Just give me somebody to talk to who's willing to listen. Right, Alan?
This is good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I went ahead and forwarded the script books to everybody who I saw on here via email since the link wasn't working. So everybody should have got that.
I got it, Sierra. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Cool. Well, we will sign off, I guess, for today. Remember, you can invite anybody that you want to these calls. There's a link that I can share with you guys too. I think I might have even copied it before the call. Let's see. No, but we had this little registration page for anybody who wants to get on the list and make sure that you get reminders for the calls, and you can share that with anybody that you would vouch for during the calls. So I will drop that in here right now, and you can share that. Go ahead.
I'm surprised not promote. You guys don't share this on the workplace for the EXP and for Reese's team, and there's just so many people that probably doesn't.
Well,
know.
that's where you go out there and you become the Reese people, and you send them here.
For sure.
Listen,
For sure.
if you guys if you had been on the journey with NAEA over the years. Full disclosure, one of the struggles, with any company is keeping everybody aligned and on the same page. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Mike, Jay, myself, Kitchens, Wall, anybody would tell you that NAEA has struggled to keep everybody on the same page because everybody kind of wants to do, their own thing. So when you talk about that, you start getting into people and, their interest sometimes conflict and whatnot.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's all that. Lesson learned there is, we want the same for our organizations. We work with a lot of people who are in EXP who are trying to build an NAEA essentially of their own, under their own brand name for their downline or revenue share organization, or giving everybody and their recruits something to belong to, right? Yeah. You don't belong to Jeff's team. You belong to Better Agents Movement, right? Or something like that. And so why would you want to be a part of Better Agents Movement? Well, man, it's got to be the culture. It's got to be the fun. It's got to be the opportunity. There's got to be a unique value brand promise. There's got to be something that makes me want to be a part of this Better Agents thing, because I could just go and be a part of, Alan with EXP. He's got the same suite of EXP value that I do. But Better Agents Movement has got this other thing, right? And so that's what everybody's really kind of trying to do to help, empower their agent attraction efforts, obviously.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was a tangent. I don't know how.
No. It makes sense, Jeff. Everyone's trying to brand themselves and make individual things. And I find myself in the first year, and I'll confess in front of you guys, like sometimes even within my team, I'm trying to do my own little inside thing going on too. So it's like, what, until I had to humble myself, say, hey man, I'm all in this team, or I should be all out, So, once I was like, okay, I'm all in, and then and then get the resources like you guys and add it to the team so that, we don't have to create so many things that are already too much. I believe we're past the information age where we just have way too much, and where we had to, it's like a white label, like NAEA has been white labeled to another name and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah, that's it. That's a real good point, man. Yeah, tons of information today. Less is more, I think, as long as it's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone's time.
Yeah, man, I
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
thank you, Sierra, for jumping on, making sure we hit record and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and sharing the links with everybody. And we'll see everybody next week. Unless I have issues, I'll be in Costa Rica next week, but I'm still gonna do our call unless there's some issues with the internet or whatever. So I'll be excited to see everybody next week.
Is there
Try to do it on the
last
beach for
question?
us.
One
Yeah,
more
what's that?
question.
Yeah.
What's the next is there an NAEA event coming up?
Yeah, boot camp is December 6th, 7th, and 8th. So that's
Yep.
going to be here in Frisco, Texas. You know, my suggestion would be to obviously come, but bring anybody who you want to to add value to with you. A lot of people bring recruits. They'll pay for the recruit and say, "Pay me back when you close your first deal. You just got to go to this deal." Or whatever. They'll use it as a way to influence some people that are on the fence, and they'll definitely pay for, if need be, their new team members. Just to get everybody plugged in and on the same page. So that's December 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the girls can hook you up with what you need on that.
Great.
Yeah, I'll shoot you over an email with all that information, Ben. So that way we can get that for you.
Sweet. All right, guys.
All right, cool, y'all. Talk to you later.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
guys.